The sky was unusually quiet that morning. The city that once echoed with laughter, music, and the endless footsteps of fans suddenly felt like it was holding its breath. The streets were covered with a soft layer of silence, as if even the wind understood that this was a moment that would never come again. People gathered from different places, carrying flowers, handwritten letters, and memories that could never be erased. Some came with tears in their eyes. Some stood quietly, unable to find the right words. Others held their phones tightly, capturing what felt like the final page of a story they had followed for years. Because today was not just a farewell. It was a moment to remember a journey. A journey of a young man who stepped into the spotlight and left behind something much bigger than fame. Yu Menglong. A name that carried dreams, emotions, and countless unforgettable moments. For many fans, he was not just an actor or an artist. He was a presence. Someone whose performances made people feel understood. Someone whose quiet expressions could say what thousands of words could not. And as the final farewell began, everyone remembered the moments that made him unforgettable. The ceremony was simple, yet powerful. There were no unnecessary displays of greatness. No attempt to make the moment bigger than it already was. Instead, there were memories. A screen played scenes from his journey, the early days, the struggles, the moments when he stood in front of cameras trying to prove himself, and the performances that eventually made people stop and notice. Every image carried a story. Every smile carried a memory. The audience watched in silence as the younger version of Yu Menglong appeared on the screen. A dreamer. A person chasing something that many people told him was impossible. The room became filled with emotions as people remembered how every great journey begins with uncertainty. Before the applause. Before the recognition. Before the world knows your name. There is always a moment when someone is simply trying not to give up. And that was the part of Yu Menglong's story that touched people deeply. He showed that success was not always about being the loudest person in the room. Sometimes, it was about patience. Sometimes, it was about staying true to yourself even when nobody was watching. The ceremony continued, but the memories became more vivid. A close friend stepped forward and shared words that made the entire crowd emotional. Some people enter our lives and leave behind moments that never disappear. They become part of our memories forever. The crowd listened. Because everyone understood. A person's true legacy is not measured only by awards or achievements. It is measured by the hearts they touched. Outside, fans placed flowers along the path. Each flower carried a message. Some said, "Thank you for the memories." Others said, "Your light will remain." And some simply wrote, "We will never forget you." The final walk began. A quiet path. A sea of people. A moment frozen in time. The world watched as the journey reached its most emotional chapter. People who had followed him for years stood there, remembering the first time they discovered his work. Some remembered a drama scene that changed their perspective. Some remembered a song that helped them through difficult days. Some remembered his interviews, where his calm personality and thoughtful words showed another side of him. Not the celebrity. The person. The human being behind the spotlight. That was what made the farewell so emotional. Because the world was not only saying goodbye to an artist. It was saying goodbye to the memories connected to him. The laughter. The inspiration. The moments that became special because his presence was part of them. As the procession moved forward, the atmosphere became heavier. But there was also something beautiful in the sadness. A sense of gratitude. Because not everyone gets the chance to leave behind something meaningful. Not everyone gets to become a memory that lives in millions of hearts. Yu Menglong's story reminded people of something important. A person's impact can continue long after the moment has passed. The cameras may stop. The stages may become empty. The lights may fade. But the emotions created by someone's work can remain. The crowd looked toward the final destination, and many realized they were not just witnessing an ending. They were witnessing a celebration of a life filled with moments. A life that inspired conversations. A life that created connections. A life that reminded people why stories matter. Because stories are powerful. They allow people to live 1,000 lives. They allow people to feel emotions they never expected. And through his work, Yu Menglong became part of many people's stories. The ceremony reached its final moments. A gentle breeze passed through the crowd. For a second, everything felt still. Almost as if time itself paused to honor the moment. A final tribute played. Scenes of his journey appeared one after another. The young dreamer. The performer. The artist. The person who continued moving forward despite challenges. The audience watched through tears. But this time, the tears were not only from sadness. They were also from appreciation. Because behind every goodbye is a reminder that someone was here. Someone mattered. Someone created moments that will stay. The final words were spoken. Legends never truly disappear. They remain in the memories they create. Those words stayed in the air. And for everyone present, they felt true. As people slowly left the ceremony, nobody felt like they were leaving with nothing. They carried memories. They carried emotions. They carried a piece of a journey they had witnessed. The city returned to its normal rhythm. Cars moved. People walked. Life continued. But something had changed. Because when someone leaves behind a meaningful legacy, the world is never exactly the same again. In the days that followed, fans continued sharing their favorite moments. Clips. Pictures. Quotes. Memories. The internet became a place where people gathered to remember. They talked about the scenes that made them emotional. The performances that stayed in their minds. The moments where his personality showed beyond the screen. And every conversation proved one thing. A true connection cannot simply disappear. Years may pass. Trends may change. New stars may rise. But certain names remain special. Certain journeys remain unforgettable. And Yu Menglong's story became one of those journeys. A story about dreams. A story about dedication. A story about the power of touching people's hearts. The final farewell was not only about saying goodbye. It was about saying thank you. Thank you for the memories. Thank you for the emotions. Thank you for the moments that became part of people's lives. Because sometimes, a person's greatest achievement is not how famous they become. It is how deeply they are remembered. And as the last flowers were placed and the final lights faded, one message remained. A legend does not live forever because they never leave. A legend lives forever because they are never forgotten. Yu Menglong's journey may have reached its final scene in this imagined farewell, but the story created by his presence continues in the hearts of those who admired him. And perhaps that is the most powerful ending of all. Not an ending filled with silence, but one filled with memories. One filled with gratitude. One filled with the understanding that some people leave behind a light that continues shining long after they are gone. The name Yu Menglong continued to appear everywhere. Not because of headlines. Not because of cameras. But because memories have a strange power. They refuse to disappear. Across different places, fans continued gathering, sharing stories, and remembering the moments that made Yu Menglong unforgettable. Some people looked through old videos. Some replayed interviews. Some returned to the scenes that first made them admire him. And with every memory came the same feeling. How can someone who meant so much ever truly leave? The answer was simple. Some people do not leave. They transform. They become a part of the stories people tell. A part of the emotions people carry. A part of the inspiration that pushes others forward. And that was exactly what happened. Days after the farewell, something unexpected happened. A young fan uploaded an old clip of Yu Menglong. It was not a dramatic performance. It was not a major award moment. It was simply a quiet scene. A moment where he smiled, laughed, and showed the side of himself that many people loved. Within hours, the video spread everywhere. Thousands of people commented. Millions of memories came flooding back. People wrote about the first time they discovered his work. They talked about how his characters stayed in their hearts. They talked about how his calm personality made him different from many others in the entertainment world. One comment said, "Some artists entertain you for a moment, but some artists leave a feeling that stays forever." And that sentence captured exactly why his memory continued to grow. Because Yu Menglong was never only about the spotlight. Behind the fame was a journey. A journey filled with effort. A journey filled with moments when nobody knew his name. Before the applause, there were challenges. Before the recognition, there were doubts. But he continued. And that became one of the strongest lessons people remembered. Many young people who admired him started sharing their own dreams. They said his journey reminded them that success does not always happen overnight. Sometimes, greatness is built quietly, step by step, day by day, moment by moment. The farewell had ended, but the impact had only begun. Then came another emotional moment. A group of fans created a special tribute. They collected messages from people around the world. Each message was different. Some were long letters. Some were just a few words. But every message carried the same emotion. Gratitude. I discovered your work during a difficult time. Your performances gave me comfort. Your smile brought happiness when I needed it. The messages created a picture of someone who had reached people in ways he may never have imagined. And that was the most powerful part. A person may never know how much they mean to others. They may never see every life they have influenced. But their actions can travel further than they ever expected. The tribute continued to grow. A wall of memories. A collection of moments. A reminder that a person's true legacy is created by the connections they leave behind. Meanwhile, people started revisiting his old interviews. And something interesting happened. They noticed details they never noticed before. The way he answered questions. The way he spoke about his craft. The way he carried himself. People realized that sometimes the smallest moments reveal the biggest truths. A person's character is not only shown during grand achievements. It appears in the quiet moments. The moments when nobody is forcing them to perform. And that was what many fans appreciated. The person behind the image. The human behind the celebrity. As the days passed, the farewell became less about sadness and more about celebration. A celebration of memories. A celebration of a journey. A celebration of someone who created moments that would continue living. One evening, a group of fans gathered under the night sky. They held lights and shared stories. The atmosphere was emotional but peaceful. Someone looked at the lights and said, "Maybe this is what a true legacy looks like." Everyone became silent. Because they understood. A person's life is not only measured by how long they are remembered. It is measured by how deeply. And the memories surrounding Yu Menglong showed something powerful. That art can connect people. That stories can create friendships between strangers. That one person's passion can inspire millions. The final farewell may have been a goodbye to a physical presence, but it was not the end of the journey. Every time someone watches a scene, every time someone listens to a song, every time someone shares a memory, the story continues. And maybe that is the most beautiful thing about legends. They do not disappear when the chapter ends. They remain in every person who carries their story forward. The world keeps changing. New faces appear. New stories begin. But some names stay written in a special place. A place where time cannot erase them. Yu Menglong's journey became one of those stories. A story of dreams. A story of dedication. A story of unforgettable moments. And as people continued walking forward, they carried one final message. Some goodbyes are not endings. Some goodbyes are reminders of how much someone mattered. And that is why the memory of a legend never truly fades. Because the greatest legacy is not being seen. It is being remembered. The final goodbye had ended, but the influence of Yu Menglong continued to travel. Like a song that stays in your mind long after it finishes. Like a movie scene that remains in your heart years later. Like a message that arrives at the exact moment you need it. People began to realize that the greatest part of a person's journey is not always the moment they stand in the spotlight. Sometimes, it is what happens after. The impact they leave behind. The inspiration they create. The lives they touch without even knowing. And that was the powerful truth behind the memories of Yu Menglong. One evening, a fan opened an old collection of videos. The screen showed moments from years ago. A young artist chasing a dream. A person still learning. Still growing. Still trying to become better. The fan watched quietly and noticed something. The biggest moments were not always the dramatic ones. Sometimes, it was the small things. The way he smiled. The way he treated people. The way he spoke about his passion. Those simple moments revealed the person behind the image. And that was when many people understood something. A true legacy is built from thousands of small moments. Not just one achievement. Not just one performance. But every effort. Every challenge. Every time someone chooses to keep going. Across different places, people started sharing their favorite memories. Some remembered a performance that moved them. Some remembered a scene that made them cry. Some remembered a moment that gave them hope during a difficult period. The conversations became bigger than one person. They became about the power of storytelling. Because stories have a way of connecting strangers. Two people from completely different backgrounds can suddenly understand each other because they were moved by the same moment. And that was the magic Yu Menglong's work created. A bridge between hearts. A connection between people who may never meet. Then came a beautiful tribute that surprised everyone. Fans created a collection of letters. Not just letters saying goodbye. Letters saying thank you. Thousands of words filled with emotions. One person wrote, "Your journey reminded me that quiet determination can create something powerful." Another wrote, "Your work became a memory I will always carry." Another message simply said, "Thank you for being part of my story." Those words showed something important. People often think a star's journey is only about fame. But behind every famous name are millions of unseen connections. Moments where someone felt inspired. Moments where someone found comfort. Moments where someone believed in themselves again. And that is something no ending can erase. As the tribute continued spreading, a new generation discovered Yu Menglong's work. People who had never seen his earlier journey started watching and learning about him. They wanted to understand why so many people cared. They wanted to discover the person behind the memories. And slowly, they found the same thing others had found. A story of passion. A story of patience. A story of someone who continued moving forward. The world of entertainment is always changing. New trends appear. New names rise. New stories begin. But certain artists create something timeless. Something that does not depend on a specific year or moment. Something that remains meaningful because it comes from a genuine place. That was why the memories continued. Because people were not only remembering an artist. They were remembering emotions. They were remembering how they felt. And feelings are powerful. They can survive time. They can cross generations. They can continue even when the original moment has passed. One night, a quiet gathering took place. People stood together, sharing stories under the evening sky. There were no loud celebrations. Just conversations. Just memories. Just appreciation. Someone looked around and said, "Maybe this is what it means to become unforgettable." Everyone became silent. Because the words carried truth. Being unforgettable is not about being everywhere. It is about leaving something behind that continues to matter. A person can leave a stage. A person can leave a screen. A person can leave a moment. But if they leave inspiration behind, their influence continues. The final farewell was not the disappearance of a story. It was the beginning of a new chapter. A chapter written by everyone who remembered. Every shared video. Every conversation. Every person inspired. Every fan who continued carrying the memories forward. All of it became part of the legacy. And maybe that is the most beautiful ending. Not a story that stops. But a story that transforms. A story that continues through the people who believe it mattered. Years from now, someone may discover an old performance. Someone may hear his name for the first time. Someone may wonder why people still remember. And then they will discover the journey. The struggles. The passion. The moments. The reason a name can become more than a name. Because legends are not created only by success. They are created by the emotions they leave behind. And as the final pages of this chapter close, one message remains. Some people leave footprints on the ground. But some people leave footprints on hearts. And those are the footprints that time cannot erase. Yu Menglong's story, through the memories of those who admired him, continues to remind people about dreams, dedication, and the power of creating something meaningful. The final walk may have ended, but the journey of the legacy continues. Thank you.